May 25th, a day chosen to celebrate people of African descent, their endurance and resilience. A fortitude of our race's great legacy. When I think of African Liberation Day, I cannot help but to reflect on the Honorable Marcus Garvey, a man who with great zeal and determination preached and fostered the vision of a liberated Africa mandated to him by the God of Ethiopia, the everlasting God of all ages. May the words of I mouth and the meditation of I heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Jah, Rastafari. He was born during the waning days of slavery on August 17, 1887. This is to say that while you and I may read of this brutal institution, Garvey witnessed its immediate aftermath firsthand. Today, when one thinks of slavery, instantly images of torture, abuse, mind control, and eventually death comes to mind. Of these aspects of slavery, mind control has had the most drastic, devastating, and lingering effect on our people. Just imagine, if you will, that you were born a slave on a plantation in the Caribbean. And as you grow into adulthood, all you know, all you've been taught is that you are nothing more than a slave, a hewer of wood and a drawer of water. That your people never had or ever will have any form of government, major religion, or civilization. The wretch of society, that's what you are. Now imagine, if you will, this indoctrination being taught throughout the world to every slave and their descendants of Africa for hundreds of years. Now here comes this astute, short black man from an island called Jamaica, saying, "Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." Of Garvey, it was said that everywhere he traveled, he observed that the treatment, condition, and oppression of blacks by whites were the same. This obvious plight of our people forced Garvey to ask, where's the black man's government? Where are his king and kingdom? Where's his president, his country, his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? It must have been pure hell for poor brother Marcus, like the biblical story of Moses, who too had to emancipate a people who just emerging out of bondage had no knowledge other than slave knowledge, which is a knowledge of submission and servitude. This burden, this grave responsibility to take a people who were brainwashed and dehumanized for hundreds of years and mobilize them into a global organization of over 400 million strong is an incomprehensible achievement by any standards. In a speech he delivered in Kingston, Jamaica, December 18, 1927, he said, "You all know how the different West Indians despise each other, how the Jamaican despises the Barbadian, and the Barbadian despises the Jamaican, and all the other islands hate each other." The UNIA was founded in 1914 after my experience of travel in South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and Europe, seeing well the need for greater unity amongst the black people of the world. Therefore, the American Negroes and the West Indian Negro are one, and they are relics of the great African race, which was brought into the Western world and kept here for 400 years. I told them in Harlem that it was my duty to reunite the Negroes of Africa to make a great nation of black men. At the forming of the League of Nations after World War I, members assembled to create the League's covenant called the Authoritative Mission. One outstanding figure in attendance was President Woodrow Wilson, who represented the government of the United States of America. The issue was raised by the Japanese government as to who represented the black population in the United States. President Wilson responded by acknowledging that he, as a chief executive, was in the authoritative capacity for such representation. However, this was overruled. It was ruled that the League of Nations would send a representative to account for the American black people. Within a few months after the session at the League of Nations suddenly appeared in the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C., the Honorable Marcus Garvey, who had proper credentials from the League of Nations to represent the black nations of the countries forming the United States. Garvey exerted the greatest influence of any leader that appeared in the history of us Africans, rallying millions to the spirit of nationalism. This accomplishment, this task, is why Rastafarians have the utmost respect for the Honorable Marcus Garvey. He had clearly and earnestly distinguished himself as a true champion of our people. He was the first person in the diaspora to establish an effective and permanent bond of international solidarity between people of African ancestry the world over. In forming the UNIA, Garvey started a movement which eventually led to the formation of the Organization of African Unity and African Liberation Day almost 50 years later in 1963. On that fateful and heroic day, a speech paying tribute to the Honorable Marcus Garvey for the work that he did in laying out the foundation for this great day that we now celebrate as African Liberation Day. A day where he earned the title of Father of African Liberation. This honor and title bestowed by the OAU that unfortunately he was unable to receive. For before Garvey could set foot on the African continent, he passed away in 1941. The excerpt of that speech that day were as follows. Today, Africa has emerged from its dark passage. Our Armageddon is past. Africa has been reborn as a free continent, and Africans have been reborn as free men. The blood that was shed and suffering that was endured are today's Africa's advocates for freedom and unity. Those men who refused to accept the judgment passed upon them by the colonizers, who held unswervingly through the darkest hours to a vision of an Africa emancipated from political, economic, and spiritual domination, will be remembered and revered wherever Africans meet. Many of them never set foot on this continent. Others were born and died here. What we may utter today can add little to this horrid struggle of those who, by their example, have shown us how precious our freedom and human dignity, and how little value life is without them. Their deeds are written in history. Excerpt from the speech by His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, to the Summit Conference of African Leaders on May 25th, 1963. Happy African Liberation Day.
Like, subscribe, comment, and share this utterance. That way you'll know when Jah Saint offer up another utterance to the masses. Bless.